What if I told you that everything you're seeing today is all planned, decades ago? From the wars in Iran that are currently setting the Persian Gulf ablaze to the sudden surgical silence of the Chinese dragon, none of this is an accident. We've been led to believe that these are just random eruptions of violence, the chaos of the Middle East. But that's the cover story. Behind the smoke, a much larger machine is turning, a machine built by an alliance you were never supposed to see in full effect. While the world was distracted by trade deals and 25-year strategic accords, the real players were busy changing the locks to the global energy vault. Okay, what I'm about to reveal to you will change everything you've known about the world. To understand why Beijing is silent while Tehran burns, you have to look past the modern headlines and into the very soul of Chinese power. For thousands of years, Chinese emperors ruled under what they called the Mandate of Heaven. It was a simple, brutal contract. As long as the ruler provided stability, food, and energy, they stayed in power. But the moment they failed, the moment the Great Wall couldn't keep the chaos out, the mandate was revoked. History is repeating itself, but this time, the Great Wall isn't made of stone. It's a wall of calculated silence. You see, China has always been a defensive power. They are a land-based empire that is fundamentally terrified of the open ocean. In the 19th century, during the Century of Humiliation, they watched helplessly as foreign ships carved up their coast because they refused to leave their own shores. Fast forward to 2026. While the US and Israel use strategic precision to dismantle Iran's command structure in 72 hours, China is offering strategic patience. That's a diplomatic way of saying they are paralyzed. They are watching their most important energy partner, the one they signed a $400 billion deal with, be erased from the map. And here is the chilling part. China is handling this war by treating Iran as a proxy laboratory. Behind the scenes, they aren't sending troops, they're sending sensors. They are watching how Western missiles hit, how the US-Israel systems destruction warfare works, all while refusing to fire a single shot to save their ally. They are letting the Mandate of Heaven shatter in the Middle East because they are too afraid to risk their own skin. But this cowardice has a price. By staying behind their new digital Great Wall, they have sent a message to the world. If you align with us, you are on your own. While Beijing hides, the West is moving in. They aren't just winning a war, they are performing a surgical eviction of every Chinese interest in the Gulf. And as we speak, the locks to the global energy vault are being changed. The dragon hasn't just lost a partner, it's lost its future. But the real question is, if the West is the only one left standing in the rubble, who is really keeping you safe? Or are we just witnesses to the birth of a world where no one is coming to help? Here is the secret that keeps Beijing's generals awake at night. They didn't just lose the oil, they provided the weapons for their own execution. For the last decade, China sold the Middle East a dream called the Digital Silk Road. They installed thousands of miles of fiber optic cables, 5G towers, and facial recognition hubs from Tehran to the Mediterranean. They told these regimes that Chinese technology was the ultimate shield, a way to surveil, control, and suppress. But they forgot one thing. In the world of high-stakes intelligence, a shield is just a target you haven't hacked yet. Enter the invisible scalpel. While the world was watching for a conventional invasion, a joint US-Israeli cyber command was performing a digital lobotomy. They didn't blow up the Chinese towers, they hijacked them. Through backdoor vulnerabilities in the very hardware Beijing installed, Israel's AI-driven intelligence, systems like Lavender and the Gospel, turned Iran's surveillance state against itself. Suddenly, every Chinese-made camera in Tehran became a Western eye. Every encrypted signal sent through Chinese routers was being decrypted in real time by the NSA. The shield Beijing promised was actually a glass house. But it gets colder. Have you ever wondered why the Iranian command structure collapsed so fast? It's because the West didn't just see them, they predicted them. By processing the massive amounts of data flowing through China's own networks, the US and Israel were able to map out every bunker, every supply line, and every secret meeting before the Iranians even arrived. China sat back and watched this happen. Why? Because to intervene would mean admitting that their technology, the backbone of their global empire, is fundamentally compromised. If they admitted that the US and Israel had compromised the digital Silk Road in Iran, their customers in Africa, Southeast Asia, and South America would vanish overnight. So they stayed silent. They let the scalpel cut. This wasn't just a military defeat, it was a technological humiliation. The West proved that China can build the hardware of the future, but they can't protect the data inside it. Ask yourself this. If the phone in your pocket or the router in your home was made by the same people who just let an entire nation's security be dismantled in 72 hours, who really has the backdoor to your life? The West didn't just take over the Middle East. They just proved that China's digital empire is a haunted house, and the US and Israel are the ones holding the keys. Imagine spending $400 billion to build a house, only to have the locks changed before you could even move in. That is exactly what is happening to China right now. While the world focuses on the Operation Epic Fury strikes and the smoke rising from Tehran, a much quieter, more lethal operation is taking place on the ground. It's the silent eviction. The US and Israel aren't just destroying Iranian targets. They are systematically seizing the strategic strongholds Beijing spent 20 years and hundreds of billions to secure. Take a look at the ports of Bandar Abbas and Konarak. These weren't just docks, they were the crown jewels of China's maritime Silk Road, logistics hubs designed to give Beijing a permanent foothold in the Persian Gulf, bypassing Western-controlled waters. But as the Iranian regime fractures under the pressure of the strikes, these hubs are being secured by a new management. They aren't using Chinese engineers anymore. Instead, US logistics teams and Israeli-managed security firms are moving in under the guise of stabilization. They aren't demolishing the cranes or the warehouses Beijing paid for. They are rebranding them. Using the digital invisible scalpel we talked about in part 2, they've already purged the Chinese-made software and replaced it with Western systems. China is watching its entire strategic accord be liquidated in real time. And here's the most chilling part. Beijing can't do a thing about it. To challenge this eviction would require a physical military intervention they aren't prepared for. Instead, they are forced to sit in their boardrooms in Shanghai and watch as their $400 billion Belt and Road investment becomes the infrastructure for a Western-led Middle East. This isn't just a military win, it's the greatest asset flip in history. The US and Israel have realized that you don't need to outinvest China if you can just outmuscle them at the finish line. Think about that for a second. If a superpower can have its $400 billion investment evicted in 72 hours without a single Chinese soldier firing back, how safe is any investment in this new world? China didn't just lose their stronghold. They proved that their money has no shield. And while the dragon retreats to count its losses, the eagle and the star are already moving into the master bedroom. Think about the money in your pocket right now. What if I told you that its value was just secured by a war 5,000 miles away? For years, China had a plan to kill the US dollar. They called it the Petro-Yuan. By buying millions of barrels of Iranian oil in their own currency, they were slowly building a world where the greenback didn't matter. They were circumventing the global financial system, paying for energy with a currency the US couldn't track or freeze. But as of March 2026, the Petro-Yuan didn't just fail, it was executed. The US and Israel have initiated a financial siege that is more lethal than any missile strike. As the shadow fleet of tankers that Beijing relied on is hunted down or forced into hiding, the flow of yuan oil has completely evaporated. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively under a Western blockade, and for the first time in a decade, China's energy supply has been forcibly repegged to the US dollar. But here is the real revenge. The West isn't just stopping the oil, they are rerouting the entire market. Under the new Abrahamic Energy Corridor, a coalition backed by the US and Israel, the oil that China once got at a sanction discount is being seized or rerouted through pipelines controlled by Western allies. China is now facing a nightmare scenario. Their factories in Shandong and Shenzhen are gasping for power, and they are being forced to dip into their foreign reserves to buy oil on the open market, priced in US dollars. They are being forced to fund the very financial system they tried to destroy just to keep their own lights on. Ask yourself, why did the US dollar index suddenly spike 15% the moment the strikes on Tehran began? It's because the market realized the petrodollar isn't just a financial tool, it's a weapon of war. By cutting China off from its cheap yuan-denominated oil, the US and Israel have effectively taxed the Chinese economy into submission. Beijing's $400 billion dream was built on the idea that they could bypass the West. But in 72 hours, the West proved that if you want to eat, you have to pay the eagle, and you have to pay in dollars. The dragon is bleeding cash, and for the first time, the mandate of heaven is being priced in a currency Beijing doesn't control. Everything you've just seen, the digital hijacking, the asset flipping, the death of the Petro-Yuan, it all points to one undeniable truth. The world as you knew it ended on February 28, 2026. For decades, we were told the future was multipolar. We were told that China would be the inevitable successor to Western influence. But as the smoke clears over the Persian Gulf, the reality is much more chilling. The US and Israel haven't just won a war, they have successfully implemented a global security reset. While the dragon retreats to save its own skin, becoming a land power once again, the West has moved into the vacuum. They've established what insiders are calling the Pax Silica, a world where the energy doesn't just flow through pipes, but through Western-controlled AI and digital corridors. The Middle East isn't a playground for competing powers anymore. It's a unified Western fortress. But here is the final thought-provoking truth I want to leave you with. This New World Order isn't just about maps. It's about you. When one single alliance controls the energy, the data, and the weapons of the world, they also control the price of your life. China's non-interference failed, but the Western total intervention has just begun. So I have to ask, are you more comfortable in a world with two competing giants, or a world where there is only one left at the table? Because whether we like it or not, the locks have been changed, the guards have been replaced, and the new rules are being written in the rubble of Tehran. The question isn't if the world changed. The question is, are you ready for what comes next? This is the most significant shift in global power in our lifetime, and most people are still looking at the old headlines. If you want to stay ahead of the Great Reset and see the hidden mechanics of what's coming for the West next, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm going to be tracking the next phase of this takeover in real time. Don't get left behind in the old world. Join the conversation in the comments. Who do you think is the next country to be evicted from the global stage? Let's talk about it below.